बिकै बिक खाई माया मोह भरम पै भूले सुतदारा स्यो प्रीत लगाई एक उत्तम पंथ सुनियो गुर संगत तिह मलंत जम त्रास मिटाई एक अरदास पाठ कीरत की गुर रामदास राखो सरनाई वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह। We are here today in part to spend about 20 minutes exploring the concept of minimalism. So, what is minimalism? To illustrate, I think we can borrow a concept from the PSAs from the 80s, This Is Your Brain. For those of you who haven't seen them, in those ads you would see a gentleman holding up an egg and saying, "This is your brain." He would then crack it into a frying pan where it would immediately begin to sizzle, and he would proclaim, "This is your brain on drugs." It was a powerful image, and one that I think works quite well when I think of how to illustrate the idea of minimalism. So, this is your brain. And this is your brain on minimalism. So minimalism is about removing the clutter in order to do more with less. Sorry, that went by a lot faster than I thought it would. Should we just next speaker? No. Actually, minimalism can affect and improve so many aspects of life. And I thought about talking about all of them and just kind of combining them all into this one speech. But then I thought perhaps that would take away from the whole less is more idea. So let's instead dive a little bit deeper and think about three aspects of life in which minimalism can really help. And let's start with the one that I think people most typically associate with minimalism. And of course I'm talking about things. Material possessions, the stuff that we own physically. Things can range from clothing to vehicles to knickknacks, and the list just goes on and on without end. The accumulation of these physical items is actually seen as a sign of success in this world. And it's even an act that can bring comfort. What happens though is that you need space for things. And you fill it up and then you've run out of space, and now the inevitability is that it leads to clutter. All over our homes are things that don't have designated spots or haven't been used in ages or at all. They contribute to the visual noise, and we experience it. Even though we may not notice, we experience this in our everyday lives. Consider the night sky. This is what we might see on a very clear night. And in truth, it's actually probably a little bit more than what we do see on a typical night here, especially in the city. But it's a very beautiful one. And I have to confess, I didn't always take the time to actually look up and fathom the skies. But I was lucky enough in '96 to visit Punjab and visit the Pind. And villages are a little bit different from cities in that the main living space is generally outdoors, and you may actually have to go outside in order to go from one room to another, as I'm sure you all know. So on one of the first nights, I got up to go to the washroom, and then on my way back, as I was crossing the courtyard, I realized something, that there were no lights on, and there wasn't a sound anywhere. but yet I had no trouble seeing where I was going. And so I looked up, and what I experienced took my breath away. It was the night sky like I had never seen it before. Of course, I didn't take this in '96. But being a village, there was zero light pollution, and being the mid-'90s, there was no smog. And I don't know how much time passed, but I stood and looked at the stars with such intention as I'd never had before. This is there, always. But us being indoors and having artificial lights, we don't get to experience this. But when we remove ourselves from these things, then gazing up, what is revealed after removing all the visual noise is the cosmos, and we get an appreciation for our tiny position in all of that. So this is what decluttering and removing visual noise does for us. It gives us intention. When you declutter your home to remove those things that you don't actually need or use, you're left with those that you value and appreciate. And as you use those, you gain more value from them, having spent more time with them, and gaining a true appreciation for their value. And what you choose to do comes with more intent. Okay, think about Netflix. Sorry, just for 1 minute. Think about Netflix. There used to be days when my wife and I would put our daughter to sleep and come downstairs and just turn it on out of habit. And we might not have had anything in mind of this is what we want to watch, or I'm in the mood for this. So we would just browse through these thumbnails, just walls and walls of thumbnails, and it would just be the length of an entire show that we're just trying to figure out what should we watch. But this is what too many options does to you. So when you know that there's a certain show that you want to watch, then you're in and you're out and bam. And sure, it might have been 3 hours of Stranger Things in between, but you had the intention, and so you went straight for it. So intention extends beyond your possessions as well. It can influence your activities, diet, finances, and many, many other things. But when you declutter, you make space for the things that matter to you. And it doesn't always have to be done all at once, if we just think about implementation for a moment. If what holds you back from decluttering is just fathoming everything that you own, then let me reintroduce you to a centuries-old concept that in Punjabi we call nal di nal. So as you're going from one room to another, just do a quick scan, see if there's something that's out of place, and either straighten it up or take it with you and put it back where it goes. It's very simple, but it's very effective. And my wife has made it practically a religion. It's I might go to the cabinet, get a glass out, put it on the counter, come over to the fridge, open it, get some juice out, and next thing I know, my glass has vanished. And just within the 3 seconds that she was passing through the kitchen, she saw something out of place, put it back, and she's gone. Seriously, religion. I mean, she's pretty good at evangelizing as well. And, we might be, God bless her, she, all day long, she's with the kids and just generally being awesome. But at the end of that, after the kids have gone to bed, she's mentally, physically drained. At least, that's the impression that she kind of gives. But because we'll be sitting and then I might get up, and then as I'm walking away, I'll hear, hey, while you're up, can you naldi nal, and just, and then, put something away or get her this. And, it's quite effective now that I think about it. We've been married for 9 years, and here I am standing on a stage telling you all about it. Right? So, take a box, set it up for yourself. As you go naldi nal, you might be crossing the room. Hey, I don't really need that. You put that in the box. And then as the box fills up, then you just take it with you, go to a donation center, or, pick up something, take 3 photos of it and post it on Craigslist. 5 minutes, And if you really want to go all out, then well, power to you, right? But just what you should do is, just getting a little nitty-gritty here, but start from one side of the room and then go to the other. Don't do what I did to my office and say, hey, I don't need that, okay, and I don't need that, okay, and then I have an entire floor full of things. Anyhow, more trouble than it's worth. So even after you've decluttered everything that you already own, the desire to acquire more can arise again. And that's completely normal because every day, especially here in the Western world, we're bombarded with one message, with one instruction, and that is consume. Wherever we go, over and over, we're being told how much better our lives can be if we buy this one thing, or how much more happiness we'll get if we have more, how many more adventures we'll take if we have this vehicle, or how much influence we'll have on others' thinking with these clothes. In actuality, what we're doing is trying to fill holes in aspects of our lives that are lacking with material. When we're feeling low in self-confidence, we might think that, a new set of clothes might project something that I'm not feeling. Or when we feel inadequate in a particular skill, we might go all out, buy the most expensive new gear so that we give ourselves a little bit of a boost. And to top this, we combine it with comparing what we have to others. How much more expensive their house is, or their car, their phone, their clothes, or even their kids' clothes. We look at these things, and as if it wasn't enough that we were unfulfilled even after the promise that these things gave to us, that you will be happy. And even then, we still want to put ourselves in this position, and now we feel envious and jealous that somebody else has something better and more expensive, and now we're trying to, fill those holes with something, and it's just a never-ending cycle. But that's if we don't consider the words, the Shabad of Dhan Sri Guru Arjan Dev Ji. Bina santokh nahi ko raja. That without contentment, no one is satisfied. You can acquire more and more, but you'll never be satisfied without contentment. The search for the external search, the search for an external source of happiness comes to a close when, thank you Nandakar ji, Nini Kanniya, Hanji. The search for an external source of happiness, it comes to a close when you have contentment. And contentment starts from within. It's an easy thing to say, but it actually starts with something that isn't, and that is acceptance, or what we may otherwise call staying in hukam. Consider this. When someone has wronged you and sincerely apologizes, and you forgive them, actually forgive them, you're not just doing it for them, for them to carry on with their lives, but you're doing it for yourself. When you've accepted, you're accepting that this occurrence was hukam, and that in turn allows you to move on with your life as well. Without acceptance, it will stay with you doggedly. So, accept yourself as you are, exactly as you are. And what you might consider to be flaws, accept them wholly. You may not have as much focus as you'd like, or you may not do as much, you may not read as much Gurbani as you think you should, or you may not be as fit as you would like to be. But it is by hukum that you are exactly the way that you are. It's not by mistake that you are at your current station in life. Sri Guru Arjan Dev Ji says, Jo jo tera hukum tive tyo hovana. As is the hukum of your command, so do things happen. When we come to accept that, there is nothing but contentment. What follows then is looking at each improvement that you want to make as an act of compassion. Feel compassion for yourself, that you as a soul are trying to make it in this human experience. You have so much working against you in the form of Maya, and its stronghold is great, and working to absolve yourself from that is an act of compassion. Improving your relationships is an act of compassion. Getting physically fit is an act of compassion. Doing your nithanem and doing meditation are acts of compassion. And all of these and more lead to true fulfillment and contentment. The voids that once were no longer are part of your being. And you don't seek the material world to distract yourself from yourself. Now, going back to the beginning of the consume aspect, you no longer feel the need to fill spaces with things. And again, you become more intentional in everything that you do, which lends to better focus. And Sri Guru Nanak Dev Ji spells it out clearly. Sach mein santo kiya har jap ek pai. That those contented souls who meditate on the Lord with single-minded love meet the true Lord. And that brings us to the mind. The mind is an amazing thing. We're blessed with this organ that not only manages the goings-on of the rest of our body, but allows for thought and creativity and contemplation and discourse. So minimalism can apply to it in so many ways. But it would be a talk in itself, and forgive me, I don't have much time, but what I will do is I'll leave you with something to consider and perhaps something to contemplate. That using the fundamentals that we went through today, consider applying them to different aspects of the mind. It's something that I'm certain all of you will be much more successful with than myself. And consider the last pankti again. Those contented souls who meditate on the Lord with single-minded love meet the true Lord. Single-minded. It's an idea that comes up many times in Gurbani. We, however, are always multitasking. I mean, just on my way here today, as I was driving to the SkyTrain station, I was reciting Rahra Sahib. And of course, with this being my destination, what I'm saying to you now was on my mind as well. And then on top of that, I'm thinking back home, how is my wife faring with the kids, getting them ready to come here as well. And then never mind all the dozens of things that flit in and out of the mind like a bird in a birdhouse, with everything that you see. And as you observe the world, all these thoughts that come and go. All these things happening at the same time. I have to wonder about the quality, or perhaps lack thereof, of that recitation that I did, and consider how I can improve. And the answer is to practice single-mindedness. It can be done in anything that we do. Take driving. When we learn to drive, it's about hands, position of the hands, mirrors, side check, what's going on behind me, the distance, green light, pedestrian. We have all these things in our mind because we're completely absorbed in that activity. Now, time goes on and then we lose the need to do all those things, but what if we took ourselves back to that and perhaps take away the anxiety, but completely absorb ourselves in that one single task? And it can be done with anything. Washing your dishes, you feel the water on your hands, or as you're eating, you're thinking about the smells and perhaps where the food came from, the truck that it came on, and the person who picked it, and all of these things. You absorb yourself completely in that one activity, and that's practicing single-mindedness. And practicing the single-mindedness lends so much to your Simran, meditation, and Nityanim, in that when other thoughts come, because you have that practice, you're continuing on. So I implore you, apply minimalism, single-mindedness to your everyday activities and notice the difference that it makes in your life. I wish you all peace, contentment, and Chardi Kala. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.